I spent $90,000 on my stepson's business until I found out he put IT in his real dad's name. So I froze the accounts and watched the store close. Hey there. We're working hard to hit our first 1,000 subscribers. If you love true, emotional stories, hit that subscribe button. It helps more than you know. Now let's get into the story. I was standing in the middle of the store I helped build from the ground up when a customer looked me dead in the eyes and asked, "Is your son's real dad here?" That moment cracked something in my chest. Not because of the question, but because of the way he said it. Like he knew something I didn't. Let me back up. I'm Mike. I'm 47. And up until 3 weeks ago, I would have told you I had a great marriage, a solid stepson, and a growing family business we were proud of. My wife Dana and I have been together for 12 years. Her son Jordan was 10 when I met him. Skinny, quiet, smart kid with a serious obsession with sneakers and YouTube business channels. His real dad? Ghost. Never around. Never paid child support. Never called on birthdays. I filled in the blanks. Showed up at football games. Helped with his homework. Taught him how to drive. I wasn't trying to be some replacement. I just loved the kid like he was mine. Fast forward to last year. Jordan turns 21, gets all fired up about opening a sneaker resale store. And look, I know most 21-year-olds have dumb ideas. But this one, he actually worked for it. Did the research. Ran spreadsheets. Showed me his deck like I was a Shark Tank investor. He looked me in the eye and said, "If I fail, at least I'll fail knowing you believed in me." That line hit me hard. I went all in. Dana co-signed. I invested the first $20K to get the lease secured, then another $40 for the inventory. By the time the grand opening rolled around, I dropped close to $90,000 of my own savings. Retirement funds, gone. Backup emergency cash, gone. I didn't care. This was for the family. Jordan called it our dream. He said he wanted me to feel like I built something too. And for a while, it felt right. He was up early every morning. Managed social media. Did everything a young entrepreneur should. Customers liked him. He even got featured in some local online magazine. That day, the one with the customer, started like any other. I was dropping off a new order of limited edition Jordans I helped source through an old client connection. The customer, a guy in his 30s, walks in while I'm behind the counter and says, "Oh, hey, is your son's real dad here? The guy who owns the place." I froze. He said it casually, like he wasn't trying to insult me. But there was something in his tone. Confident. Familiar. Like he'd met him. I laughed it off, handed the guy his sneakers, and walked out to my car. But that line wouldn't leave my head. That night, over dinner, I asked Jordan who else had been coming by the store. His eyes flicked to Dana for half a second. Just a flick. But I caught it. He shrugged and said, "Just people from around. You know, some old friends of Mom's." He wouldn't meet my eyes. And just like that, I felt it, that shift in the air. The one you only feel when something's about to unravel. I started noticing other things too. Jordan stopped showing me the finances. Said he had it covered. The invoices for new inventory. Never emailed anymore. Dana started getting weirdly defensive when I asked about the business. "You should let him handle it," she said one night. "You've done enough already. Don't smother him." Smother him? I built the damn foundation he's walking on. I gave him everything. Money, time, belief. And now I was being asked to step back? I didn't say anything then. Just nodded, ate my dinner, and washed the dishes. But in my head, I started wondering, who's really running this store? Because something tells me it's not the kid I raised. And something tells me the real dad I haven't heard a word about in years. He might be closer than I think. And if that's true, he's about to learn the hard way what happens when you cut out the one guy who actually built the dream. I couldn't sleep that night. I laid next to Dana, listening to her breathing, steady, peaceful, like everything was normal. But inside my head, everything was loud. That customer's voice kept echoing. "Is his real dad here?" The way Jordan glanced at her like she held the answers. The way she didn't look surprised. I started pulling threads. I didn't want to go full conspiracy mode, but I had access to a few things still. Old email logins, some bank notifications, our joint paperwork. I checked the business account. Jordan had changed the password. Huh, odd. Not a big deal, right? Except we agreed I'd manage the finances for the first year so he could focus on growth. Then I checked the LLC docs. The business license we filed together. Or should have filed together. Gone. Now I was officially confused. I called our accountant the next morning, a guy we've used for years. Friendly, mid-60s, real careful with details. I asked him, "Hey, I just wanted to double check. Who's listed as the owner on the business license for Kicks Vault?" There was a pause. Mike, I didn't do the license. I assumed you guys handled that yourselves after the initial consult. You didn't. No, I thought you were doing it. He hesitated again, then said something that made the hair on my neck stand up. Well, someone filed it 2 months ago, but it wasn't you. It's under a Daniel Carter. Daniel Carter, Dana's ex, Jordan's biological father. I don't remember much about hanging up the phone. I just remember walking outside, sitting on the back steps, and feeling this weird mix of betrayal and shame. Not anger, not sadness, something colder. Like someone unplugged the sun from my life and didn't even say sorry. Let me get this straight. I gave this kid 90 grand, spent nights researching suppliers, helped him draw up his entire business plan, and he registered the entire thing under the man who abandoned him? For what? For a last name? I didn't say anything that day. Not to Jordan, not to Dana. But the next morning, I casually brought it up. Said I was curious about updating the business insurance. Wanted to know whose name was officially on file. Jordan tensed. Dana sighed, put her fork down, and said, "You don't need to worry about that stuff. It's taken care of." I asked again, calmly, and that's when Dana looked me in the face and said, "Mike, you don't get it. He's not really your son." There it was. No hesitation. No sugarcoating. Just dropped like a brick in my lap. I stared at her. My mouth was probably half open. I waited for her to walk it back, explain, say she didn't mean it like that. She didn't. In fact, she added, "You've been amazing to him. Really. But maybe it's time to step back. Let his dad be involved now." Oh, now he gets to be dad? Now that the work is done? Now that there's a store with product, buzz, a built-in customer base? Now that I took the risk? Dana said it so casually, like it was just a reasonable transition plan. Like I was a temp who had finished his contract. I nodded slowly, finished my coffee, looked at Jordan, who couldn't even look back at me. Then I said, without raising my voice, "Okay, then I won't be involved anymore." And I meant it. They thought I was just stepping aside. What they didn't realize was, I still controlled the accounts, and I was just getting started. They thought I walked away. Jordan was relieved. Dana acted like she'd just won a custody battle for a business. But what neither of them realized was, I wasn't just the investor. I was the infrastructure. When we started Kicks Vault, I handled all the back end. The LLC was technically mine at first, because Jordan was too young to sign on some documents. The inventory came from vendors I sourced. The business checking account? Opened under my name with him listed as an authorized user. The money? $90,000 of my own savings. And while he'd been busy getting shout-outs on Instagram and calling himself a CEO, I was quietly maintaining full access. Jordan thought I didn't know he'd rerouted things, that he'd created a new entity under his bio-dad's name. But here's the thing about trying to override a foundation. If the ground you're building on isn't actually yours, it only takes one lever to make the whole thing fall. And I had that lever. So I started making calls. Quiet ones. The first was to the bank. I asked if the account was still active under my name and if I could place a temporary freeze. "Of course, Mr. Garrison," they said. "You're still the primary." Perfect. Next, I called the merchant processor, the service they used for all point-of-sale payments. It was tied to my EIN, which meant I could disable their ability to take card payments with a single click. After that, I looked into the lease. Guess what? The property was under the Kicks Vault LLC, the original one. Mine. Which made me the tenant of record. Every single thing they'd been building, every transaction, every shoe sold, every employee hired, all of it still ran through the house I built. I waited for a quiet Monday morning, the slowest sales day of the week, and at 7:03 a.m., I froze the accounts. At 7:08, I paused the merchant processing. At 7:15, I emailed the landlord and gave notice of closure due to financial discrepancies. By 9 a.m., I was back at home making breakfast like it was any other day. I didn't text, didn't warn them, didn't even block the door. I wanted them to walk in and see what happened. I wanted them to taste it, that panic, that loss of control, that realization that the man they cast aside like a spare part was the one who kept the engine running. Around 10:42, Dana called. I let it ring. Then Jordan. 3 times. The 4th time, I picked up, kept my voice level. "Something wrong with the store?" Dead silence. "Nothing's working," he said eventually. "The payments are down. The bank account's locked. We can't even pay the staff. I pretended to think for a second. Huh, that's strange. Probably best to call your real dad. Sounds like a real owner problem. He didn't say anything, just hung up. I sat there, watching the blinking light on the call screen disappear, and for the first time in weeks, I smiled. You wanted him, kid? You got him. Let's see if he can unfreeze what he never built. You ever watch someone try to fix a leak by putting tape over it, while the whole damn pipe is cracking underneath? That was Jordan, running around like a headless chicken after I pulled the plug. First day, panic. Second day, denial. Third day, desperation. By the fourth day, silence. They had no clue what hit them. I heard from one of the employees, a nice kid named Ricky who used to call me Uncle Mike when I helped him land the job, that Jordan walked in on Monday looking confident. Said it was just a minor tech glitch. By lunchtime, their payment terminal was still offline. Their supplier, a buddy of mine I warned in advance, pulled their delivery. And when the landlord came by for a random inspection, Jordan tried to bluff. Didn't work. Turns out when you pretend to be the boss, it's real awkward when you can't explain why the name on the lease doesn't match your business license. And funnier still when you realize the guy you filed against is still on every legal document. I didn't even need to be there. I just waited. By Wednesday afternoon, their staff started quitting, one after the other. The shelves were already half empty because the inventory was bought on net. 30, and guess who defaulted? Dana came home that night looking like she'd been crying, but I didn't ask. We hadn't said much since her little, "He's not really your son" speech. She sat down at the table, quiet, like she was building up to something. Then she said, "Mike, I know you're mad, but don't ruin everything. He's just a kid. He made a mistake." I looked at her and said nothing for a few seconds, just stared. Then I asked, "Whose store is it, Dana?" She flinched. I asked again, slow this time. "Is it Jordan's? Yours? Or Daniel Carter's?" She opened her mouth, but I cut her off. "Because it's sure as hell not mine, right? I'm not his real dad, remember?" Silence. She tried to change the subject, said they'd figure it out, that maybe Daniel could take out a small loan to cover the costs, and they'd restart. That's when I laughed. Not loud, just under my breath. Because this was the same Daniel who'd ghosted Jordan for over a decade. The same guy who bailed the moment Dana got pregnant. The guy whose idea of being a father was sending a text once a year on Christmas, usually by mistake. And now he was supposed to rescue them? Nah. Thursday afternoon, I got a text from Jordan. Just one line. "I messed up. I should have been honest. Too little. Way too late." The lights at the store went out later that evening. Literally. Power cut. Someone must have missed the utilities payment too. I drove by one last time just to see it for myself. The once colorful sign above the door, Kick's Vault, in bold graffiti font, was cracked and half-lit. The windows were empty. No foot traffic. The dream? Dead. And all I had to do was take my hand off the wheel. No yelling. No threats. Just a quiet reset. You give someone the keys to your house, and they lock you out? Fine. But don't act surprised when I change the locks and take back what's mine. They say when people show you who they are, believe them. But when they try to guilt-trip you afterward, that's when you show them the paperwork. 3 days after the store shut down, Dana asked if we could have a serious conversation. We hadn't talked much, just been doing that weird cold roommate thing where everything's polite but dead inside. I knew what was coming. Still, I said sure. We sat across from each other like strangers at a bank. She looked worn out. No makeup, hair up, a hoodie that probably belonged to Jordan. I didn't feel angry anymore. Just tired. She started soft. Said she was sorry for how everything came out. That she should have handled it better. That we should have communicated. Then she hit me with the classic. "Mike, you're better than this." I let her talk. Let her use every word she could think of to spin this as a misunderstanding. She even said, I kid you not, he was trying to make his real dad proud. You know how boys are. I think he just wanted to connect with him. Yeah, with my money. Then came Jordan. He showed up an hour later with a box of donuts and that sad puppy face kids use when they know they messed up, but hope sugar will patch it. He didn't even sit down right away. He just hovered in the kitchen and finally said, "Guess I should have expected this from someone who's not even blood." That one hit different. I didn't yell. I didn't respond. I stood up, walked into my office, opened the drawer, and pulled out a folder. Clean. Labeled. Indexed. Notarized. I handed it to him and said, "Take a look." It had everything. The original LLC registration with my name. The bank statements showing the $90,000 in stage transfers from my personal accounts. The merchant services agreement in my name. The lease signed under my LLC. Every single signature. Every dotted line. Every paper trail. Jordan flipped through it slowly. Dana leaned over his shoulder, her lips parting in this slow, sinking realization. I leaned back in my chair and said, "You thought I was a wallet. I was the foundation. You tried to replace me with a man who didn't build any of this. And now you want me to fix what you broke." Dana was staring at the floor. She muttered, "You planned this." I looked her dead in the eye and replied, "No, you did. The moment you told me I wasn't his father, you made me a business partner. And I treated you like one." It went quiet after that. No more speeches. No more donuts. They left the folder on the table when they walked out. I didn't even bother picking it up. I just sat there, finally breathing like a man who remembered who he was before he became someone else's backup plan. The day after I handed them the paperwork, Dana moved into the guest room. No more shared dinners. No more goodnight pecks. Just silence and doors closing. The kind of silence that doesn't hurt anymore. It just confirms what you already knew. I didn't rush anything. No yelling. No theatrics. I just started untangling myself, like someone pulling their arm out of quicksand, slow and deliberate, without making a scene. First, I filed for divorce. Quietly. She didn't contest it. I think she was too embarrassed to even try. I made sure to include a clause protecting all business assets and investments prior to the marriage ending. I also froze our joint savings account. She didn't drain it. I think a part of her knew that if she tried, I'd bury her in court documents and facts. And Jordan? He moved out within the week. Back to his real dad's apartment. 2-bedroom walk-up. No business connections. No capital. Just two grown men trying to share a space that wasn't built for either of their egos. I heard the store's social media pages were taken down. Google Maps marked Kick's vault as permanently closed. The landlord locked the doors and changed the signage 2 weeks later. And that $90,000? I didn't get it back directly. But here's what I did get. The supplier I connected Jordan with, now working with me directly. I invested in a small logistics startup instead, something lean, scalable, and not tied to family drama. The lawyer I used for the divorce also referred me to a CPA who found tax deductions I never would have known about. I clawed back over $15,000 from the IRS thanks to failed business loss. And the peace of mind. Priceless. Dana texted me once since then. Just one message. "I still don't understand why you did all that. We could have worked it out." I didn't reply, because if you have to ask, then you never understood what being a partner or a parent really meant. Jordan hasn't reached out again. Last I heard, he's working part-time at some electronics chain, trying to launch a new sneaker page online. With what money? Who knows? Maybe Daniel finally decided to pitch in. Maybe not. But me? I go to bed in a quiet house. My own space. No lies. No cold dinners. No fake family guilt. And every morning, I walk past the folder I framed, the original LLC docs, mounted on my wall like a trophy. A reminder. You can be loyal. You can be generous. You can be loving. But never to people who see you as replaceable. I wasn't his real dad. Fine. Now I'm not his stepdad either. Just a man who rebuilt his peace, brick by brick, after watching the ones he trusted burn it all down. And that's the story. If you're still here, that means you're one of us. So go ahead, hit that subscribe button. I drop new chaos every single day, and trust me, tomorrow's story, it's even worse than this one.